I'm fired up. I love every minute I can spend with him. I feed off his energy. Hopefully he's able to feed off mine in some respect. We're both Sun Devils, and I think that's something that will forever bond us, that he's in it for the right reasons. He cares intently about this university. He was a part of our football program, and not that that's the only way to make it work, but I do think there's a next factor when you're that personally invested in the mission.
Welcome back, or welcome to Y Option. I'm your host, Yogi Roth. And yes, I'm sitting in the end zone and on a football field in the middle of the country. I am at Indiana on a training camp tour, and we are coming to you from the heartland of the Big Ten. And we're going to talk about a team that was in the Pac-12 and now in the Big 12. So we're talking a little bit of everything today. Our guest is Graham Rossini. He's the new athletic director at Arizona State. And it's fun because here we are, almost in the middle of training camp. So there's a lot of storylines to talk about with Arizona State when you look at their schedule moving forward. Also, lots to talk about just in college football because news and movement just continues to happen. And with that, let's bring in Jim Thornby, co-founder, executive producer, Y Option. Jim, I hope it's a little cooler where you are because it's been pretty hot out here in the Midwest on this Big Ten tour. But how you doing, man?
Good. Yeah, everything's running fine back here. We're just gearing up. I can't believe we're only a couple weeks away from the real season starting.
Yeah, it is crazy to think that games are like moments away. And it's amazing to watch like the college football world kind of like piece itself together. Like here I am with Curt Cignetti, whose brother Frank was the offensive coordinator at Pitt way back in the day. And the offensive coordinator here is Mike Shanahan, who played wide receiver at Pitt, and Tino Sinceri, who played quarterback at Pitt. So, like, I'm in like a big Pitt reunion right now, which is really funny. And I think as we talk about Arizona State, we look at their schedule and hearing random noise behind me. Hopefully, that's not too distracting. In week 3, I think they play Texas State, where Jordan McLeod is the quarterback, and he was one time the starting or a quarterback at Arizona. So it's just weird how like all the things just keep kind of fitting together and knitting together in weird, unique, and ironic kind of ways.
Yeah, a week 3 Thursday night game at Texas State. You won't see that often.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Arizona State's schedule. What do you see when you look at them entering this new league?
It's interesting. Just as I'm kind of looking off camera here, opening up with Wyoming. Again, it seems like a regular normal kind of thing. Then they got Mississippi State at home, so that should be a fun environment for that. Then the Texas State that you mentioned, and then they get right into the Big 12. It's at Texas Tech and then versus Kansas with their first 2 Texas Tech games, with their first 2 Big 12 games. So it's not like how Arizona and Utah are like easing into it by playing each other. They do get Utah as their third non-conference game in Tempe, but they'll be right in the thick of the weirdness of realignment as we get started with things there. But it'll be fun watching Kenny Dillingham and see what he can do with his squad.
Yeah, I think it's a totally different story than it was a year ago, right? In year 1, it was a complete overhaul of the roster. They gave themselves sanctions, no bowl game, kind of hopefully can put that side of Arizona State athletics and the football program to bed and start building and rebuilding this thing. I think one of the most critical moves in all college football this past offseason was them hiring Marcus Arroyo. I think he's an absolute star as a play caller, as someone who can manage a side of the ball. And I think in this world of college football, it's just so hard to navigate everything as a head coach and as a CEO. It can just be too much. And you start thinking about every conference, there's not a lot of head coaches that are play callers anymore. Jed Fish is that, Steve Sarkisian is that, but it really doesn't happen anymore because there's so much to do. So now Kenny Dillingham, he was the youngest head coach in the country when he took the job over. Now he can really CEO this thing. And I think for a guy who's from that community, who's talked so much about the Valley and so much about Arizona State, I think it's great. And that's why today's guest is so fun, because Graham Rossini is also a guy who's a product of that community and a product of that institution. And he's got such passion for the school. He talked to us about that at Big 12 Media Days. And I think with those two being connected, it's huge. I mean, look at the best athletic departments, especially in football. I think Oregon is a prime example. I was just up there. Rob Mullins, Dan Lanning, they are connected all the way up to the school president. It feels like it's that way at Arizona State for the first time in a really long time. And I think that's going to give them an opportunity to have success. And I do not think they're going to finish 18th in that 18 team mismatch of logos. Like, I think they're going to surprise some people. I think their football is going to be really good. Huge fan of their defensive coordinator and the way that, he has schemed up people, whether he was at Syracuse or Washington State and now at Arizona State. So yeah, they got some holes to fill and some answers to figure out here in camp. But I'll be honest, man, I'm buying ASU.
It'll be interesting. I think there's two players that I'm really kind of interested to see, how they do this year. One will be Raleek Brown, the transfer from USC, who obviously had a lot of hype coming out of high school and showed some flashes at USC, but just didn't, wasn't always healthy to be able to get the opportunities that he needed there. And then also speaking of health, with Jordan Tyson, who transferred from Colorado the year before, but then sat out all of last year due to injury from being injured while he was at Colorado. But we saw some real flashes from him at Colorado, and so there's two weapons right there that if they are fully healthy and able to really find ways to get them the ball, could be pretty fun to watch this year.
No doubt. I mean, you want to talk about flashbacks? I call it Raleek Brown's first ever game. He scored a touchdown. I want to say it was like against Nevada or San Jose State or something like that. And he does the Heisman pose in the end zone. You're like, bro, easy in your first game. But then, doesn't get on the field as much as he wanted to in year one at SC, a little bit banged up, doesn't go as planned in year two. But look, this is why the portal exists, where guys can get a clean slate. And I think with the offensive creativity of Kenny Dillingham, we know what that is. Marcus Arroyo is dramatically proven. I'm I'm really anxious to watch this team go compete. I think they have an edge. I'll say this. I also felt this in let's go realignment like phase one. Like when SC and UCLA left, to me, we've all heard the same thing about Arizona State. They're a sleeping giant. They're a sleeping giant. And when they left, I said to myself, well, if you're on the West Coast and you want your family to be able to drive or a short flight to go watch you play in a metropolitan community, there's really only one school left, right? And that's Arizona State, when you really think about it in those terms. And then realignment 2.0 happened, and they're obviously going to a new league. But same thing. Look at every team in that league. If you want to be in a fun metropolitan community with great weather, and you're a West Coast kid, it's probably not UCF, right? Like you're not going to go that's a 5.5 hour flight, guys, right? Like I still think this thing has a shot to be that sleeping giant. And in this new league, we saw it at Big 12 Media Days. Nobody really takes up the oxygen like USC did in the Pac-12 or Oregon did in the Pac-12 when they were all in that league together. Colorado is a Dion effect, so it takes up a lot of space, but there's an opportunity there. And that's what I think will be the intriguing part of this league, Jim, to be honest, is you don't know who's going to take it up. Like can someone emerge like a Clemson did in the ACC? I think Arizona State is actually positioned well. NIL and collective has gotten a lot better. Recruiting is going well. They've got a coach who has zero desire to go anywhere else. He probably wants to retire as a Sun Devil. So I'm in, and I do believe in the leadership there. I think the hiring of our guest today, Graham Rossini, the athletics director, was a really smart hire because you're looking at the future of what is college athletics. You have to raise money. You have to entertain. You have to think differently. And I'm not against anybody who's been in an administration for their majority of their careers, but I think when you look at his professional sports background and his passion for the school and his willingness to go compete, and I mean, he does everything anybody's asking him: meetings, donors, partners, and he's a really forward-thinking guy that I think they're positioned well to do really well, and I think that's why people are going to really enjoy the conversation we had today with him.
Yeah, absolutely. He was really impressive. I know, it was almost like the worst kept secret in Tempe that he was probably going to be the guy getting that job, and it seemed, to take longer than I'm sure they would have hoped for that process to all went out. But I think in the end they got the right guy for that job.
Amen. All right, so let's listen to the right guy for the job. Presented by our founding partner, 76er. All these conversations. We have been going in training camp. We got this interview at Big 12 Media Days with Arizona State Director of Athletics, Graham Rossini. Enjoy. Big love to 76 for our partner on this thing. And I think all Sun Devil fans are going to enjoy getting a little peek behind the curtain of your new leader in the athletic department.
Ready, set. Use French fries to go. Yeah, oil from French fries. Turn yesterday's leftovers into today's fuel. More power, lower emissions. 76 renewable diesel fuels all the ways you go, go, go.
Big 12 Media Days, AD, ASU. Graham, it's so cool to see you in this setting. It's been beautiful to watch you ascend.
Thank you.
I feel like it was just yesterday we were at Camp T, just talking about life.
Yeah.
But what has life been like for you as the athletic director of Arizona State?
First off, I'm glad you're here. This is cool for me. So I'm glad that you can continue to be in our world at ASU, and I'm excited for your next opportunity and what you're doing next. And so it's really cool that I'm pumped to do this with you today. The fire hose is for real. That's no joke. But it's been so cool. I just really enjoyed this outpouring of support out the gate, and didn't know what to expect. There's no way to know what to expect, but there's been an energy and a sense of enthusiasm that I've been able to feed off of, and it's just able, the days are long, but it's so exciting at the same time. And so it hasn't set in yet. I mean, I feel like I'm living a dream right now, and the fact that I get a chance to represent ASU, that means so much to me in a role like this, is hard to imagine, but a dream come true at the same time.
Yeah, so let's talk about the imagination part of it. Like, you're a young guy, you got an illustrious history with this university. Did you ever see this? Was this ever like on the vision board for you?
No, I just really focused on the place matters to me, and professionally, I've always tried to focus on how do I tie myself to something that's fulfilling to me individually, and can I impact people through the work that I do? And I've been lucky to do that in two places, two different iterations at ASU, 13 years with the Diamondbacks in between. I love both places dearly. I've grown because of each of those entities and the people associated with it so much in ways that I could never begin to appreciate. And so, there's just a sense of pride and intrinsic motivation that comes from me being a Sun Devil and me understanding what this fan base is all about and what this university can offer people. How do we package that up, and how do we do that every single day of getting more people excited about everything happening at ASU, including athletics?
So when I hear you say that, I think of a phrase of like, you want to be part of something bigger than yourself.
100%.
For sure. So where does that come from though? Like, take us through the origin story, like young athlete, young family guy, like as a young son, like where did that?
I've been tied to a team since I was 4 years old. And so I think that construct of a team is really, really important in my life, where I know the need to be accountable for my actions, but to be accountable and relying on others to help accomplish a common goal. And I don't know a different world. I know team sports since I was 4, and have had this way to stay connected to it, even life after playing in a team setting where everybody has to have a role and a contribution and clarity on what we're here to accomplish, but we do it together, and we do it with the setting of the power of ASU behind us and the full strength of that support as a part of the journey. Both my grandparents were in the military. My dad's dad was a colonel in the Army. My mom's dad was in the Navy. And I think there's some military intangibles that are definitely in my DNA in terms of just discipline and organization and time management, accountability, and those things. My Navy granddad spent his entire career with Chevron. My dad spent his entire career at Chevron. So there's a loyalty and a longevity that I think does matter. And maybe in hindsight, that's always been a part of the playbook. That's just been a part of my journey, a part of my upbringing of contributing to something bigger than any one individual. And that combined with being tied to a team in the way that I've been lucky to, maybe has been a big reason for how this journey's ended up playing out.
What was the team at 4 years old? And what was the sport?
The Tire City Braves in Mobile, Alabama, in the Maytree Park Little League.
Oh my God.
So, and I've got a great picture. My mom found it a couple weeks ago, and 4 years old playing T-ball, and here we are 40 years later.
All right, we need that photo, number one. Check it out, yoption.com. It'll all be there for sure when this thing comes out. With that said, let's just talk about college football.
Yep.
There's a football show. The landscape is gnarly, right?
Yeah.
You guys are entering a new league.
Yeah.
Players are getting paid. There's about soon to be revenue sharing. Like, what do you think? What do you make of it? And how do you find your way through it to lead this organization?
Well, Commissioner Yormark said it earlier today in his remarks. There's never been a better time to be a student athlete in any sport, but particularly in college football. And, we're looking right across right now. We got the EA Sports set up, debut in the game. That's going to be an amazing thing to kind of get back into the culture of college sports. it's evolving, and I think that just creates more and more opportunity. And so we're mindful at ASU on how do we tap into all the opportunities afforded to a student athlete at this specific moment in time. And as we go into the Big 12, it just creates opportunity for us. And we're now in this different but national conference. We're playing in every time zone. There's 90 million people across the Big 12, 16 member institutions. They get to learn about ASU as a result of the Big 12. That allows us to drive resources and revenue that we're reinvesting into what we're doing within our football program. And by reinvesting in our football program and them having success, that carries throughout the entire athletic department. And so it's really tapping into this opportunity in front of us. And that's both as an institution, as a football program, and then what that means for our student athletes.
Yeah, I think there is something exciting about like the newness that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I also think there's like a dark side, and then also like something else will be coming.
Right.
So how do you navigate to make sure like it's kind of calm? Because you have training camp coming, then you have games coming, but there's all these other things that are always out in the ecosystem around college sports.
Well, I think we're all growing into change agents at this moment in time, and unique to ASU, where we're navigating leadership transition. We're going into the Big 12. We joined a hockey conference. We're in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference as of this fall, and so the I guess blessing in disguise is we've been navigating change all the while. And the cautionary tale is that we're probably not done. There's probably something around the corner. What it is to be determined, but building that muscle of being a little bit more agile, a little bit more flexible, a little bit more open-minded to what could present itself next, and not be too rooted or structured in the way that we're used to doing things, whatever those things are. We need to be mindful of where it needs to be moving forward. How are we mindful? How are we more strategic? How are we more disciplined in how we make decisions? And then be open and available to take advantage of the new opportunities as they present themselves.
Head coach and quarterback have a distinct relationship.
Yeah.
Head coach and AD need to have a distinct relationship. What's it like with you and Kenny Dillingham?
I'm fired up. I love every minute I can spend with him. I feed off his energy. Hopefully he's able to feed off mine in some respect. We're both Sun Devils, and I think that's something that will forever bond us, that he's in it for the right reasons. He cares intently about this university. He was a part of our football program, and not that that's the only way to make it work, but I do think there's a X factor when you're that personally invested in the mission. And his family has grown up. There's generations of Sun Devils in the Dillingham family. They've got a young son. Hopefully he's a future QB for us as well. And there's a romance to it, right? Like, it's our school. We care a little bit more because it's our school. And he's a big thinker. He's an offensive genius. He is connected to his team in a way. I've been around a lot of teams in my life. I've not seen a head coach connect to his players the way that this guy is. And you see that today, just how they operate. And they got to Vegas yesterday. They took the PJ. They had a great dinner. They went to a show last night. And he enjoys spending time with his team. And that translates in a big moment where the game is on the line. Can you trust each other? Can you trust the play call? Can you trust the young man to go execute that vision? And so I want the same in our relationship.
Yeah, no, he's infectious. Yeah,
he is.
I feel it just coming called a couple of his games.
Yeah,
the course of his career. All right, so you're kicking off this new endeavor, but you've been in athletics your whole life. We're kicking off a new endeavor here with Y Option. It's college football through the lens of the West Coast. I'm going to call games on Saturdays with the Big Ten Network. But your advice of starting a new endeavor, what would it be? Because you've learned a few more lessons than we have. We're like day one here.
Right. Well, say yes and figure out the details. I think it's all about building more connections. And you've got a tremendous relationship and a tremendous reputation in the industry. And I'm excited for the country to see what you bring to the conversation and how passionate you are about college football and what West Coast college football means to you. The country's big. There's a lot of eyeballs. There's a lot of competition for those eyeballs. I think the unique storylines are really important. You've always been an unbelievable storyteller. You've been an unbelievable connector. Keep doing that. But say yes to every opportunity. Work out the details, but get in the game and stay in the game. And I'm pumped for you and the opportunities to come.
Back at you, man. All right, I love it. Saying yes.
Yes.
Doing that. Thank you for saying yes to us and every ASU athlete. You got a home right here. Football players want to come on. We'll get you back on.
Let's do it.
Make it annual.
Absolutely.
All right.
Sign us up,
bro.
Awesome.
It's the Afterglow. What's happening? Yogi Roth alongside Jim Thornby. That was Graham Rossini. This is the part where we reflect back on our time and our conversation. What lessons did we learn? What questions do we wish that we asked? Again, I'm sitting here on the floor of this beautiful stadium, so shout out to Brett Lewis, my sideline partner. He caught many touchdowns right here, probably right in this corner of this end zone as a wide out for the Hoosiers. Jim, nobody's getting caught watching the paint dry out here, man. What were your takeaways from Graham Rossini?
I mean, it's just cool when you have an alum as running the department. He's someone who worked his way up all through that athletic department. Took some time out to go work for baseball for a little while, so familiar for me as well, and then come back to the college game. But he got his start, doing. He was the director of baseball ops for ASU many years ago. So, it's just really cool to see. He's got a Sun Devil family. His wife is a former Sun Devil athlete too. So that's what to me, is cool. And now you have both Arizona schools both have alumni as their athletic directors. So it's interesting to see how that's kind of worked out for both of them.
Amen. Yeah, it'll be fun. I think in this new world order that we're in, athletic directors are more forward-facing than ever before because of the collectives, because of revenue sharing, because of all the things that are going to happen now in sports. Like I'd imagine schools start to cut sports just based on having a revenue share and Title IX and all the things that are coming down the pipe. So thankfully it's football season, so we don't have to talk about any of those because we get to talk about the games. But I know he'll be navigating those waters. And I think Arizona State's in a really good position with him as their leader. Speaking of positions, thank you all for putting us in this position. Y Option just continues to take off. Jim, I've been in the Midwest. I don't know if you can hear my man working on the stadium behind me. I apologize to the listeners if you can. But I've heard from so many people in Big Ten country talking about the hat that you're rocking and the gear that we're swagging out now at yoption.com, as well as just the brand that we're building. So it doesn't happen with all the listeners, without all of the listeners, all of the people helping on social media. So thank you for that. The conversation can continue. They're going to be fast, they're going to be furious. And as Jim mentioned in the open, the games are right around the corner. So with that said, I'm going to get off this really hot turf and head to another stop on this training camp tour. Jim, I look forward to being in my home studio in Los Angeles, having one of these conversations with you. But until then, I'm going to hop on a bus and keep driving all throughout the Midwest, brother.
Anyone can play in the easy elements. Sometimes you got to get out there. In the rain, and the snow, and the sleet, and everything else. It's just it's not always the easy path that we get to take here.
That's right. You sound like every team room I've been in over the last couple of days. The standard is the standard, non-negotiable principle.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We just keep powering through.
Kelly, as Chip Kelly told me yesterday at Ohio State, there's no crying on the yacht. There's no crying on the yacht, baby. All right. Thank you to 76 for our conversation with Graham Rossini. Thank you to all of you. Jim, thank you for you. You're crushing it, man. Hold down the fort. Now, a lot is going on behind the scenes to make it happen. And, of course, to the listeners and the readers, we will continue to pour into you. You're going to get a massive report on all these schools I've been on. Remember, college football through the lens of the West Coast. Nobody's got you covered like we do. So lots of love. Stay safe. I'm off to the bus. Peace.